Listen closely, because this isn't a story meant to lull you to sleep. No, this is the call that jolts you awake, shakes the ground beneath your feet, and makes you confront the truth you've been running from. It's not an easy truth, but it's one you need to hear. The people who abandoned you, lest them, they will soon chase you. But not yet. Not until you rise. Not until you embrace the fire inside you. The fire they tried to extinguish. Let me tell you something about abandonment. It's a pain so sharp it cuts deep into your soul. It feels like standing on a stage, blinded by a spotlight, only to realize the audience has walked out. It's the silence that follows a slammed door. It's the void left behind when someone who once claimed to love you suddenly vanishes, leaving you stranded in the wreckage of broken promises. You've been there, haven't you? Left behind, forgotten, unseen. But here's the thing. They didn't just leave you. No, they planted a seed within you, a seed of doubt. A voice that whispers, maybe they left because you weren't enough. And that voice, it's a liar. It's a thief that robs you of your confidence, your joy, and your belief in your own worth. But today we're going to silence that voice, because what they didn't realize is that abandonment isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning. You see, pain has a funny way of shaping us. When they walked away, they thought they were discarding you, leaving you to crumble under the weight of their absence. But what they didn't know is that abandonment has a dual nature. It can either bury you, or it can plant you. And you're not buried, you're planted. You're a seed in the soil, and though it's dark and cold down there, something incredible is happening. Things will hurt again. It's uncomfortable but reliable. Brattle be seed. Roots are growing, strength is building, and soon you'll break through the surface and reach for the sun. I'm not here to sugarcoat it for you. The darkness is real, the pain is sharp, the nights feel endless, and there's no denying that being abandoned can make you feel like the smallest, most insignificant person in the world. But let me tell you what I see. I see someone who's stronger than they realize, someone who has endured what others couldn't, someone who's still standing, even when the weight of the world tried to crush them. It's possible. It's not impossible. There's no reason not to live for ideas of perfection. I see a survivor, but more importantly, I see a fighter. And soon you'll see it too. Here's the truth that no one likes to admit. The people who abandon you don't define your worth. Their leaving isn't a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of who they are. Weak, fearful, blind to the value standing right in front of them. They left because they couldn't see the vision of who you're becoming. Crossing the floor, it was then that Chris grew close by me. They left because they were too small to handle the greatness within you. They left because your light made them uncomfortable in their darkness. And now, it's your turn to decide. Will their departure define you, or will it fuel you? I know what you're thinking. It's easy for me to say these things from the outside looking in. But understand this, I'm not speaking from theory. I've been in the trenches of pain. I've been left behind, written off, and counted out. I know what it's like to sit in the silence, wondering why you weren't enough for someone to stay. I know the sting of betrayal, the ache of loneliness, and the weight of rejection. But I also know what happens when you decide that their leaving isn't the end. It's the spark. Abandonment is an awakening. It's the moment the world tries to break you, but instead, you break free. Free from the need for approval, free from the chains of others' expectations, free to become exactly who you were meant to be. And that freedom, it's terrifying at first. It's uncharted territory, but it's also the most powerful thing you'll ever experience. Because when you realize you don't need the people who left, something shifts inside you. You stop chasing them. You start chasing you. And here's where the magic happens. The same people who left you in the dark, who underestimated you, who doubted your potential, they'll start to see what they missed. They'll see the fire in your eyes, the strength in your steps, the purpose in your actions. And suddenly, they'll want back in. They'll come knocking, chasing, pleading. But by then, you'll be too far ahead. Because the person they abandoned, that person doesn't exist anymore. You've become someone new, someone unstoppable. So here's my question for you. Are you ready to rise? Are you ready to take the pain they left you with and turn it into power? Are you ready to stop waiting for someone to rescue you and start building your own rescue plan? Because the truth is, no one is coming to save you. You are the hero of this story. You are the one who decides how it ends. And trust me, the ending is worth fighting for. Abandonment hurts, but it doesn't have to destroy you. In fact, it can transform you. It can strip away the false layers, the masks you wore to please others, the compromises you made to keep them around. It can reveal the raw, unfiltered truth of who you are. And when you embrace that truth, when you step into your authentic power, there's no limit to what you can achieve. So let them go. Let their opinions, their judgments, their absence, all of it, go. They walked away, but you're the one who's walking forward. They left you, but you're the one who's rising. They thought they broke you, but all they did was ignite a fire that can't be extinguished. This is your wake-up call. This is your turning point. And from this moment on, everything changes. Because you're not just surviving anymore, you're thriving, you're growing, you're becoming. And soon enough, the people who abandon you will realize their mistake. But by then, you'll be too busy shining to notice. Now, stand tall, take a deep breath, and remember, you're not just a survivor, you're a conqueror. And your journey is just beginning. They left, and when they did, it felt like the world collapsed around you, didn't it? The weight of their absence pressed on your chest like a boulder you couldn't move. You stared at the empty spaces where they used to be, where their laughter once filled the air, where their words gave you comfort, where their presence made you feel whole. And now, silence. Deafening silence. You asked yourself the same question over and over again, like a broken record stuck on repeat. Why? Why did they leave? Why weren't you enough? Why did the people you trusted the most abandon you when you needed them? Those questions are knives, aren't they? Each one cutting a little deeper, leaving you raw and exposed. But let me tell you something. The problem isn't you. I know that's hard to believe right now, but because abandonment has a way of making you question everything about yourself. It whispers lies into your ear, making you think that maybe, just maybe, if you were better, stronger, smarter, more lovable, they would have stayed. But that's not how it works. Their decision to leave wasn't about you, it was about them. And yet, the pain they left behind is yours to carry. I know that burden feels impossibly heavy, but today, we're going to unpack it together. And you're gonna see. Let's start with the loneliness, that ache that sits in your chest like a void, cold and hollow. You've felt it, haven't you? The kind of loneliness that makes even a crowded room feel empty? The kind of loneliness that makes you second-guess reaching out because you're convinced no one will care? It's like being stranded in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by endless water, but dying of thirst. No one tells you that loneliness is loud. It echoes in your mind, amplifying every doubt, every insecurity, every fear. But even in that loneliness, you're not alone. Millions have felt what you're feeling now. You're not as isolated as you think. And then there's the self-doubt. Oh, it's relentless, isn't it? It creeps in at the worst moments, whispering venom into your ear. You weren't enough. You'll never be enough. No one will ever stay. Those words sting, don't they? They dig into your mind, turning every mirror into a magnifying glass for your flaws. You find yourself replaying every conversation, every decision, every moment you shared with the ones who left, searching for the thing you did wrong. But here's the truth. Their leaving doesn't mean you're unworthy. It means they couldn't see your worth. And that's on them, not you. Now let's talk about the villain in your story. Maybe it's the people who walked away, the ones who made promises they didn't keep, the ones who said they'd stay forever, only to vanish when the storms rolled in. Maybe it's the judgmental voices of society telling you to move on when your heart is still bleeding. Or maybe, and this one stings the most, the villain is your own inner critic. That part of you that's been shaped by years of rejection, pain, and disappointment. That voice that tells you, see, they were right to leave. You're not good enough. But let me make something clear. That voice, it's a liar. It's not the truth. It's a collection of every hurtful word you've ever heard, every unfair comparison, every moment of rejection. And it doesn't deserve a place in your story anymore. Because you're not the villain here, you're the hero. And heroes don't let lies define them. I know it's hard to hear this right now, because you're still in the thick of it. The pain is fresh. The wounds are raw. And I'm not here to pretend that it doesn't hurt. It does. It hurts like hell. But what I want you to understand is that pain is a signal. It's your soul's way of saying, this matters. And what matters can be transformed. Pain is a teacher, not a sentence. Let me paint you a picture of what abandonment feels like, because I know you've felt it. It's like standing on a bridge that collapses beneath your feet. One moment you're walking steadily, trusting that the ground will hold you. The next, you're free falling into an abyss, reaching out for anything to grab onto, but there's nothing. You're suspended in midair, heart racing, breath shallow, wondering if you'll ever land. It's terrifying, isn't it? But what if I told you that fall doesn't end in destruction? What if I told you that the ground you're falling toward isn't the end, it's the foundation for something new? Here's the question you need to ask yourself, and I want you to think about it carefully. Why did they leave, and what are you going to do about it? Not why did they leave me, with a sense of victimhood, but why did they leave, with the curiosity to learn? Were they too small to handle your greatness? Were they too fearful to stay through the hard times? Were they blind to the light you carry? Or maybe, just maybe, their chapter in your life was meant to end so you could finally step into your power. And now, the second part of the question. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to let their leaving define you? Are you going to carry the weight of their choices for the rest of your life? Or are you going to decide right here, right now, that their leaving is the spark that ignites your transformation? Because let me tell you something, no one who ever achieved greatness did so without experiencing pain. Pain is the price of growth, and abandonment, it's the pain that forces you to stand on your own 2 feet. I'm not here to pity you. You don't need pity. What you need is power. And power doesn't come from pretending the pain isn't real. It comes from looking it straight in the eye and saying, I see you, I feel you, but you don't control me. Power comes from reclaiming your story, one broken piece at a time, and turning it into something unbreakable. You've spent enough time mourning what you lost. Now, it's time to focus on what you're building. The people who left didn't define your value then, and they don't define it now. The only person who gets to decide your worth is you. And I'll tell you this much, you're worth more than the ones who walked away. You're worth fighting for, worth believing in, worth celebrating. So take a deep breath, feel the pain, but don't let it consume you. Acknowledge the hurt, but don't let it become your identity. And most importantly, answer the question, what are you going to do about it? And the answer is yours to write. And I promise, the story isn't over yet. It's just beginning. Let's go deeper. Let's go to the place you don't talk about, not even to yourself. The place where the wounds are still fresh, where the silence is deafening, and where your heart feels like it's carrying the weight of the world. You've been living here, haven't you? Stuck in the shadows, carrying the scars of abandonment, like they're chains that keep you from moving forward. Let me paint you a picture of what staying here looks like. Imagine waking up every day, but it's not really living. It's surviving. The clock keeps ticking, the days keep passing, but you feel like you're standing still. Time slips through your fingers, and all you're left with is regret. Regret for the dreams you didn't chase because their leaving made you believe you weren't capable. Regret for the moments you didn't enjoy because their absence overshadowed your joy. Regret for the person you used to be before the pain took hold. But regret isn't the worst part, is it? No. The worst part is the bitterness. It starts as a whisper in the back of your mind, how could they do this to me? And grows into a scream that consumes your thoughts. Bitterness wraps itself around your heart like a vine, choking out anything good that tries to grow. It makes you suspicious of kindness, wary of love, and convinced that no one will ever truly stay. I know enough. It isolates you, not because people don't care, but because you've built walls so high that even you can't climb them. And then there's the anger. Oh, the anger. It burns like fire, doesn't it? At first it feels good. It gives you energy, purpose, a sense of control. But that fire doesn't just burn outward. It turns inward. It starts to consume you from the inside, leaving behind ashes where your hope used to be. You snap at people who mean well, push away those who try to get close, and convince yourself that it's better this way. But deep down, you know it's not. Deep down, you miss the connection, the love, the trust you once had before the pain took it all away. You've been here, haven't you? Stuck in the quicksand of despair, sinking deeper every time you try to pull yourself out. It's exhausting, isn't it? Fighting a battle that feels unwinnable, carrying a weight that feels unbearable. And the worst part is, you've started to believe that this is all there is, that this is your life now, that the pain is permanent, the loneliness inevitable, and the future hopeless. But let me tell you something, this doesn't have to be your story. You don't have to stay here. You don't have to let the people who abandoned you have this much power over your life. Because that's what's happening, isn't it? Every time you replay their words, every time you relive the moment they walked away, you're giving them power. Power over your thoughts, your emotions, your choices. And the longer you stay here, the more you're letting them win. Think about it. Every day you spend stuck in this place is a day they don't even think about you. Every moment you waste questioning your worth is a moment they've already forgotten. And every ounce of energy you pour into anger, bitterness, and regret is energy you could be using to build something incredible. Staying here doesn't hurt them, it hurts you. And you deserve better than that. But I know it's not that simple. You don't just snap your fingers and let go of the pain. It's a process, a journey, and it starts with recognizing the patterns that are keeping you stuck. Maybe you've been numbing the pain with distractions. Too much scrolling, too much drinking, too much pretending everything's fine. Maybe you've been pushing people away, convinced that if you don't let anyone in, it can't hurt you. Or maybe you've been clinging to the past, replaying every detail, trying to make sense of something that will never make sense. These patterns, they're born from abandonment. They're your mind's way of protecting you from getting hurt again. But the irony is, they're not protecting you at all. They're keeping you trapped in a cycle of pain, stopping you from healing, growing, and moving forward. And the longer you stay in these patterns, the harder it becomes to break free. Let me show you what freedom looks like. Imagine stepping out of the quicksand, feeling the weight lift off your shoulders, and taking a deep breath for the first time in what feels like forever. Imagine looking at your scars and seeing strength instead of shame. Imagine waking up with purpose, joy, and a sense of hope that the future holds something beautiful. That's what's waiting for you on the other side of this pain. But to get there, you have to make a choice. You have to choose to stop living in the shadow of the people who left you. You have to choose to let go of the anger, the bitterness, the regret. And most importantly, you have to choose to believe that you are more than what they made you feel. Because you are. You are so much more than the person they left behind. You are resilient, powerful, and capable of creating a life that doesn't just survive their absence. It thrives because of it. Living with fear makes it possible to stay alive, but it also leads to resentment. Anger is a very powerful emotion capable of creating illusions of success. And living with fear makes it possible to create illusions of success that thrives because of it. I know it's hard to see that right now. I know the pain feels overwhelming, the darkness suffocating. But even in the darkest night, there's a sliver of light. Even in the coldest winter, there's a promise of spring. And even in the depths of despair, there's hope. A whisper that says, this isn't the end. A flicker that reminds you, you're stronger than this. A spark that dares you to believe there's more to life than this pain. So, I'll ask you again, what happens if you stay here? What happens if you let the pain define you, the bitterness consume you, and the anger control you? You already know the answer. You've been living it. But what happens if you decide, right here, right now, that this isn't how your story ends? What happens if you take the pain, the anger, the regret, and use it as fuel to build something extraordinary? This doesn't have to be your story. You don't have to stay in the quicksand. You don't have to carry the weight of their leaving for the rest of your life. You have the power to write a new chapter. One where the pain doesn't break you, it builds you. One where the scars don't define you, they empower you. One where the people who abandon you don't get the final say, you do. Take a deep breath, feel the pain, but don't let it consume you. Acknowledge the darkness, but don't let it define you. And remember, this is not the end, it's the beginning. A beginning that starts with a choice to rise, to heal, and to step into the life you were always meant to live. The choice is yours. What will you do? It's time to rise. Enough of the shadows, enough of the quicksand, enough of feeling like the victim of someone else's story. You've spent enough time there, and now it's time to take the first step out. This is where the shift begins. This is where the pain becomes power. This is where you remember who you are. Not what they made you feel, not what they left behind, but who you truly are. Let me start by telling you this. You are not their victim. You are your own hero. They may have tried to write you into a tragedy, but the pen has always been in your hand. It's time to write a new chapter. One where you don't just survive, you thrive. Dalo, one where you don't wait for someone else to save you because you realize you've always had the strength to save yourself. I know that sounds impossible right now. I know it's hard to believe that you have any power left when it feels like they stripped it all away. But let me tell you something about power. It doesn't come from the absence of pain. It comes from the decision to rise despite the pain. Your power isn't in what happened to you. It's in what you choose to do next. They thought they were burying you, didn't they? When they left, they thought it was the end of your story. They thought their absence would break you, leave you shattered and small. That's you. Right now you're in the soil. It's dark, it's heavy, and it's hard to see the light. But you're growing, even if you can't feel it yet. This pain you've been carrying, it's not a curse. It's fuel. It's the fire that will forge you into something stronger than you ever imagined. Every tear you've shed, every sleepless night, every moment you questioned your worth, it's all building something within you. Like resilience, strength, power. They tried to break you, but all they did was give you the tools to rebuild yourself. And when you do, you'll be unshakable. But to get there, you have to make a choice. A choice to let go, not for them, but for yourself. Let's talk about forgiveness. Not the kind of forgiveness that says it's okay, because it's not. What they did wasn't okay. The pain they caused wasn't fair. But forgiveness isn't about them. It's about freeing yourself from the poison they left behind. When you hold onto anger, when you let bitterness take root, it doesn't hurt them, it hurts you. Forgiveness is cutting the cord that ties you to their actions, their decisions, their leaving. It's saying, you don't control me anymore. Forgiveness is strength. It's not weakness, it's not surrender, it's power. It's reclaiming your energy, your focus, your life. Because the moment you forgive, you stop giving them power over your thoughts, your emotions, your future. You take that power back, and once you have it, you can start to rebuild. Rebuilding doesn't happen all at once. It's not a grand gesture or a dramatic moment. It's a process, and it starts small. One step at a time, one day at a time, one choice at a time. Let me challenge you to start with the simplest things. Reclaim your mornings. Wake up and remind yourself that this day is yours, not theirs. Reclaim your voice. Speak your truth, even if it's just to yourself. Reclaim your purpose. Find one thing, no matter how small, that gives your life meaning and hold on to it. It's not about making giant leaps. It's about taking steady steps, step by step, day by day, one brick at a time. That's how you build a life worth living. That's how you rise from the ashes of what they left behind. And every step you take, every brick you lay, is proof that you are stronger than the pain, stronger than the abandonment, stronger than the doubts that tried to consume you. And you might stumble along the way. That's okay. Growth isn't a straight line. It's messy, it's unpredictable, it's hard. But every stumble, every fall, every moment of doubt is part of the process. What matters is that you keep going, that you get back up, dust yourself off, and take the next step. Because every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory. And those victories, they add up. They become momentum. If they become strength, they become transformation. Let me tell you what happens when you start to rise. The people who abandoned you, who underestimated you, who thought they could leave you broken, they'll notice. They'll see the fire in your eyes, the power in your steps, the confidence in your voice, and they'll realize they made a mistake. They'll realize they didn't leave you behind. They freed you. They'll realize that the person they abandoned is gone, and in their place stands someone stronger, wiser, and unstoppable. But by then, you won't need their validation. By then, you'll have built something so solid, so unshakable, that their opinions won't matter. By then, you'll be too busy growing, thriving, and living your truth to care what they think. That's the power of transformation. That's the power of choosing to rise. So, start now. Start small. Start messy, but start. Take the pain they left you with and turn it into fuel. Take the doubt they planted and turn it into determination. Take the darkness they left you in and use it to grow toward the light. You are not their victim. You are your own hero, and heroes don't wait to be rescued. They rescue themselves. Step by step, day by day, one brick at a time. This is how you rise. This is how you reclaim your power. This is how you become the person you were always meant to be. And trust me, the world isn't ready for the greatness you're about to unleash. Keep going. You've got this. This is it. This is the moment everything changes. The moment you stop walking and start running. The moment you stop surviving and start thriving. You've been carrying the weight of their absence for too long, letting it hold you back, letting it define you. But today, right now, you're going to lay that weight down and take back your power, because you are so much more than the person they left behind. You're stronger, you're wiser, you're unstoppable. Let's start with a truth you need to hear. Their leaving was never about you. It wasn't a reflection of your worth, your potential, or your ability to be loved. It was a reflection of them, of their fears, their insecurities, their inability to see the masterpiece in progress that stood right in front of them. That's what you are, a masterpiece in progress. And they walked away before the final strokes were painted. That's not your failure, it's theirs. Think about it. Who said their opinion of you was the truth? Who decided that their leaving meant you were unworthy, unlovable, or incomplete? No one. No one but you. And here's the thing, you can decide something different. You can decide right here, right now, that their opinions, their actions, their absence mean nothing in the grand scheme of who you are and who you're becoming. Let me ask you something. Why let the people who left define what you become? Why give them that power? They didn't see your worth, but that doesn't mean it wasn't there. They couldn't handle your light, but that doesn't mean you should dim it. They walked away from your story, but that doesn't mean the story ends here. In fact, their exit is just the beginning, because now you get to write the next chapter. And trust me, it's going to be incredible. You've been through hell. You've faced rejection, abandonment, and pain that most people wouldn't survive. But you did. You're still here. And that alone is proof of your strength. Think about everything you've overcome. The nights you cried yourself to sleep. The mornings you forced yourself out of bed when you didn't think you could. The moments you kept going when every part of you wanted to give up. That's resilience. That's power. That's who you are. And now, it's time to step fully into that power. It's time to stop letting their absence dictate your actions, your emotions, your future. It's time to take everything they left you with, the pain, the doubt, the fear, and turn it into something extraordinary. It's time to rise, not for them, not to prove them wrong, but for you. Because you deserve a life that isn't defined by what they took, but by what you create. Let me tell you what happens when you decide to rise. The world starts to shift around you. Opportunities appear where you once saw obstacles. Strength surfaces in places you thought were broken. And the people who left, they start to notice. They see the fire in your eyes, the confidence in your stride, the undeniable power in your presence, and suddenly they realize what they walked away from. But by then, it won't matter, no matter how much you want. By then, you'll be too busy thriving to care. Here's the thing, The version of you they left doesn't exist anymore. That person is gone, replaced by someone stronger, wiser, and more powerful than they ever imagined. You've grown, you've transformed, you've become someone who doesn't need their approval, their validation, or their presence to thrive. And that's what makes you unstoppable. So, let's make this your awakening moment. Right here, right now. Decide that you're done waiting for someone to save you. Decide that you're done carrying the weight of their absence. Decide that you're ready to take back your power and create a life that's so extraordinary, it leaves them speechless. Ask yourself these questions. Who am I when I'm not defined by their leaving? What can I become when I let go of their opinions? And if you can, pull free, keep going, look a little lighter, and if you could, make the world look a little lighter when you leave it. What happens if I stop surviving and start thriving? The answers to these questions aren't just possibilities, they're your truth. You are someone who is capable of incredible things. You are someone who can rise from the ashes of pain and create something beautiful. You are someone who doesn't just survive adversity, but uses it to fuel their greatness. Let me tell you what the world isn't ready for. It's not ready for the version of you that's coming. The version of you that wakes up every morning with purpose. The version of you that refuses to let pain dictate your path. The version of you that turns every scar into a story of resilience, every setback into a setup for success, and every moment of doubt into a declaration of power. That's who you're becoming. And the world isn't ready, but you are. So here's your battle cry. Rise. Rise from the ashes of what they left behind. Rise from the pain, the doubt, the fear. Rise into the person you were always meant to be. Because the world isn't ready for the fire you're about to unleash, the strength you're about to show, the life you're about to create. And the people who abandoned you, they'll see it too. They'll see what they missed. But by then, you'll be too far ahead, running toward your purpose, thriving in your truth, to ever look back. This is your turning point. This is your moment of awakening. And from this moment on, nothing will ever be the same. You've been walking, but now it's time to run. You've been surviving, but now it's time to thrive. The world isn't ready for the version of you that's coming, but you are. Let's go. The next chapter of your life starts now. This is where everything comes together. All the pain, all the lessons, all the growth. It's time to turn it into action. This is your moment, not to dwell on the past, but to create your future. A future where you're no longer weighed down by their leaving, no longer defined by their absence, and no longer stuck in the shadows they cast. This is the moment you step into your power and take charge of your story. Let's start with the scars. You have them, don't you? Those marks left behind by their words, their actions, their betrayal. They're part of you now, and you've been hiding them, ashamed of what they mean. But let me tell you something. Scars aren't signs of weakness. They're evidence of survival. They're proof that you went through the fire and came out on the other side. So look at your scars, acknowledge them, accept them, because they're not flaws, they're badges of honor. Now let's talk about your goals. Not the ones you set to prove them wrong, but the ones you set to make yourself proud. It's tempting, isn't it, to make revenge your fuel, to dream of the day they realize what they lost. But revenge is a distraction. It's a fire that burns bright but leaves you empty. Instead, focus on growth. Focus on becoming the best version of yourself. Not for them, but for you. What do you want to achieve? What lights your soul on fire? Define those goals, write them down, and chase them with everything you've got. Because this is your journey, not theirs. Inner peace. It sounds like a distant dream, doesn't it? But it's closer than you think. It starts with letting go of the anger, the bitterness, the need for closure they'll never give you. Inner peace isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about deciding it no longer controls you. It's about standing in the middle of your storm and feeling unshakable. It's about knowing that no matter who leaves, no matter who doubts you, you are whole, complete, and enough. Cultivate that peace, protect it. Let it become the foundation of your confidence. And here's the most important shift you'll make. You're not chasing them. They'll chase you. By becoming more certain, they'll see your growth, your strength, your light, and they'll wonder how they ever let you go. But here's the thing. By the time they realize what they lost, you'll have already moved on. You'll be running too fast, shining too brightly, living too freely to care. That's the power of focusing on your own journey. The more you pour into yourself, the less their absence matters. And one day you'll look back and realize they didn't leave a hole. They made room for something greater. Let me give you a metaphor. Your life is like clay, raw and unshaped. When they left, it felt like they shattered you into pieces. But clay doesn't break, it transforms. It's molded, shaped, and refined into something beautiful. And you're the sculptor. You get to decide what your life looks like. You get to shape it with purpose, intention, and love. Don't let their leaving define the masterpiece you're creating. You hold the tools, you hold the vision, you hold the power. Now take a moment to reflect on your worth. Let go of the doubts they planted in you. Let go of the belief that their absence means you weren't enough. If they couldn't see your light, that wasn't your fault. It was their blindness. Your worth doesn't depend on their ability to recognize it. Your light doesn't dim just because someone else can't see it. You are valuable, worthy, and extraordinary just as you are. Don't let anyone, not even the people who left, make you question that. Here's your roadmap moving forward. Identify your scars and accept them. Stop hiding them. Wear them as proof of your strength. Define your goals, not out of revenge, but out of a desire to grow. Dream big, aim high, and work for yourself, not anyone else. Cultivate inner peace and unshakable confidence. Let go of the need for closure and focus on your own healing. Shift the narrative. Stop chasing the people who left and start chasing the life you deserve. Shape your life with purpose. You are the creator of your story. Make it a masterpiece. You've spent enough time looking back. Now it's time to look forward. You've been down, but now you rise. You've been forgotten, but now they'll remember. The people who abandon you will soon chase you, but by then you'll be running too fast for them to catch. This is your moment. Your time to create. Your time to rise. The world isn't ready for the version of you that's coming, but you are. Let's go. Your masterpiece awaits.